Hello everybody, welcome back to the table. As you could tell by the title of this video, our question sits: is it possible to break in the back spring of a slip joint, making it easier to open? So of course the answer to that question is yes, but the real question is, how can we do it on a knife that is too hard to use in the first place? So short history, this knife right here is the Great Eastern Cutlery number 23. This is in woodland micarta, beautiful pattern of a knife. Great big hunk and slip joint, has a liner lock on it actually built in as well, but it is a traditional slip joint knife. Very heavy pull. I made a video on this knife about 2 years ago. And so in that video, if you watch that one, you will know this knife was incredibly hard to open. You know, borderline dangerous to open because the spring was so tough, you almost could not get the blade fully out without risking cutting your hand open. So the question is, has it gotten better in the time I've owned this knife? And so what I have done, this is my experiment. It's a 2-year experiment, still ongoing. I have stored this knife. I have not used this knife, as you can tell by this pristine, beautiful blade here. I have stored this knife in one of 2 positions. So the first position was this one right here, about like this, where you can see a significant portion of the back spring exposed, and it's right about at the detent where it's going to snap shut. So I would let the knife sit like this on the shelf for months at a time. Alternatively, I would also open the knife in this position here, like this. So now it's in the almost open position. The spring is still exposed and sprung, but it's in the almost open position, and I would just let it sit. Let it sit for months at a time. So for 2 years, I would just go back and forth between these 2 positions, because my original thought was, I once received advice that it would be possible to make the knife easier to open if you wore in the back spring here. And without regular use, that's not going to happen. So I'm thinking, let's just stretch out this spring a bit, see if it makes any difference in opening the knife. So I guess time has come, 2 years now. Has it really made a difference? So I will say, of course, it is still a knife that is a gator-like action, very tight, but opening the knife. So this is where the difference comes. Before, I had to kind of wedge it a little bit, poke the blade into a table, and then wedge it open. Now, if I pull from down here, as you can see, I can pinch it open with my fingers. The nail nick is still a little tough to open, but it's doable. So we can see it's openable there. So whereas before, I would have rated this like a 10 out of 10 on the pull, maybe even an 11 out of 10 on the pull. Maybe now it's a 9 out of 10. So is it really a drastic difference? No, but this might be the difference between making the knife usable for somebody versus keeping this knife a shelf queen. And so that being said, if my hands were sweaty, if they were wet, if they get sweaty even over the course of this short video, it may make it harder to open. But it is now doable, because in my last video, my frustration was apparent, because for the price these knives cost, I think they should be somewhat easy to open, especially a model here that has the additional safety of a liner lock in there. And so I know there are a lot of fans of these knives that really love this super tight action, making it hard to open, which of course does add a degree of safety as well. But I'm not one of those people. So, so I debated selling this, of course, but I love the look of this knife. I mean, look at this knife here. Beautiful single blade pattern. They also have these in a double blade trapper variation. You can see that woodland micarta is absolutely gorgeous. The shield, everything on this knife is just perfection. Love those clean lines on the blade. And so besides wiping the blade down every couple of months, it sat on the shelf. And this is the result. So our Pioneer Great Eastern Cutlery number 23, alternating between, again, the 2 positions. So we have it about like this and about like this. 2 years. I know that's a kind of an unreasonable thing for most of you to really do, but I thought this would be a nice little experiment because, again, this is part of the collection, so it's not going to be a hard user anyway. But this does answer the question, can you break in a slip joint knife without actually using it? And the answer to that is yes, with time. So as a user, as a collector, I'm still going to continue to store it in these positions And maybe another 2 years from now, we'll see if there's any improvement. So that's just the quick and short of this video here. Hope you enjoyed watching. And of course, you can call me all kinds of silly names in the comments below, because it is kind of silly to not use a knife and to break it in this way, but it's doable. So what I was told, the sage advice I received, is quite valid. So any questions about the Great Eastern Cutlery number 23, feel free to leave a comment below. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was somewhat informative. Have a nice day all. Bye.